Close of the year, usual downtime, no productions happening. So been working on a few different equipment repair projects and just some light planning for next year. One of the things I've realized this past 12 months is I need to add to my grip package on my van. I've struggled with this because if you look back a couple vlogs, I went over my previous like 2 to 3 ton cube truck, grip and lighting truck I had in the past, sold the majority of that equipment, kind of half knowing when I was selling it all that I would probably be repurchasing things like combo stands or high rollers or a couple of frame sets and rags. But I don't have any of that right now, but I do need to add some Apple boxes and conventional flags. Now, I've held off on putting either of those in the van because I like having that bunk to sleep in when I'm doing, it's not really to save on hotels. It's more when I get stacked up with multiple projects and no turnaround and I have a day in Houston, then a day in McAllen. I don't necessarily know when the first day is going to wrap, and I may not even know my call time for the next assignment. So instead of trying to book a hotel like partway or 3/4 of the way there, I like having the ability to just drive until I get tired, sleep, and pick up the balance in the morning. And the van has been fantastic for that, as you've seen in some previous vlogs. So with that said, instead of purchasing, I wanted to improve my woodworking skills a bit here. So I'm attempting to build a set of nesting apple boxes. I watched several YouTube videos on how-tos. This one's not going to be a how-to. This is my first go, and my woodworking skills are pretty basic. But if you are interested in making your own, there's numerous videos on YouTube. Some are super basic, just like a cordless drill and a hand circular saw, on up to I watched one that was like a full cabinet grade woodworking shop, and they didn't use any metal fasteners on the boxes. Instead, it was like rabbets and biscuit joinery with glue, which looked amazing. And I actually bought a biscuit cutting tool thinking I'd try that out. And then once I got going on this thing, like first day in, put about 6 hours in day one, I realized, you know what, this is going to take forever. So I returned that and decided just to use brad nails. I have a little nail gun already, and I had 1-inch nails. So the only purchases I had to make for this were I had to buy these drill bits, Forstner, I think they're called. They're new to me, but I already had the drill press, and that was just to make the little finger holes. Originally for the quarter apple, I was going to route out the bigger hand slots for the half and full apple. But then once I got going here, I realized, you know what, I'm just going to drill the holes for everything, and then I'll use a jigsaw to connect them. I used the straight edge and did my best to make it seamless, but each one is a little bit different. I don't have as you can see here, a proper vise for clamping the bigger pieces of wood in the drill press. I did discover after I got through all this, I could have used a nail set or a punch to punch a hole where I want the drill bit to land and use that for alignment instead of taking all this extra time sighting in each hole. So in addition to selling off all my grip gear, I had a tabletop router table at my old house, and it sat for about 5 years in the attic unused. So when I moved, I threw it away. And now this is the first project where I really wish I had that table. I even looked to see if I could buy one locally at the box stores, and they didn't have them in stock. And I'm going to be about $150, $200. So, and then I'm going to have the same problem again. That thing's kind of awkward to store. I was looking at, they have like a little drop-in insert. So if you have your own woodworking table, which I also don't have room for, but I was thinking maybe I get that insert and then cut a hole out of this steel welding table, fixture table, and it can be dual purpose for routing as well as welding. So on the flag side, I need to add some 18 by 24 inch and 2 by 3 foot flags, silk, double, single net, and a solid, probably solid flop would be ideal. And then I also got to figure out some 48 inch or 40 inch 4x, like a ultra flop, and then maybe a conventional floppy. I think I'm going to go with the Road Rag Matthew style breakdown frames for the smaller sizes. And I discovered on Amazon and B&H there are some other manufacturers that sell them. They're not as high quality, the textiles, as well as the frame. I think it was like Godox maybe and Kupo, and then newer on Amazon have some very inexpensive breakdown sets. I may just pick up, I think it was $150 for a set of 18 by 24s. I'm thinking I'll just buy those, and I've got them in the truck. And then if they only get through a couple of jobs before they break, at least I got those jobs covered while I figure out what I want to do as a more permanent setup. And the 4x, I think it's inevitable. I'm going to have to go with like WAG flags and then maybe like 2 breakdown 4x frames. Because again, I don't want to give up the space in my truck to carry the conventional grip stuff. And I'm not looking to be the grip and lighting supplier. This is just for me to pick up some supplemental work for like when a DP travels into my market and they want to hire a local interview light kit and interview lighting and grip, like 1-ton van style. Not something I want to market for. It's more just to be able to say yes when I get that referral. I had more of those last year than any previous years. And in my 20 odd years back in California, I did a whole lot of grip electric work on set. So totally confident in that role. And I find it so much lower stress too, versus being the DP on the shoot where you're always on and always anticipating the next thing. It's like when you're the lighting guy, I get to sit down and relax while the interviews are rolling, check messages. I got some billing done on the last project I did here in San Antonio as the gaffer. And I go home and I'm not mentally exhausted. And really, too, I'm finding that the rates are working out to be very similar to just like be the gaffer and get the grip and lighting rental versus being the camera guy that's working on a package rate and including a couple of light panels in my DP package rate. So I found some plans online, and some of the measurements on the cut sheet weren't quite right. So I'm just working my way through those issues now. A couple little minor cuts. Fortunately, everything was oversized versus being under. And I think I only screwed up one end cover for the full Apple that I had to remake. So now I'm working on installing a new router bit. It was like a $10 bit from Harbor Freight. This is a 1/4 round off just to smooth out all the corners so I don't have any sharp edges. And I do need to go back and sand these boxes. I was just tired and didn't want to deal with it. And they're pretty smooth. These were sanded sheets from the store. But I will go back and sand them. I don't think I'm going to stain. Originally, I was thinking I have in the background, you can see those 2 5-gallon paint buckets with the 5-gallon water blue jug on top. One of those is deck stain, and I think there's about a gallon left in there. Not deck stain, fence stain from my recent fence build. It's a little on the dark side for Apple boxes. I was just thinking visibility on set when they're in dark and in the shadows. Probably don't want a darker color stain, kind of a tripping hazard. But I don't want to go out and buy a product specifically to coat these things. So I may just stick to natural. My 4 sets I had on my old truck, I never finished them. And they were fine. You know, they just kind of wear, get dirty, get some oil stains. Art department will get paint on them at some point, and it's fine. So once I get this additional gear sorted, I'm going to rebuild the stand rack at the rear door to my van. So in a previous vlog, I elevated the bed frame up a couple of inches. That allows me to now carry 6 C-stands in place of the 4 without any other changes to my stand rack. But I'm thinking I'm going to build a second one of those stand racks on the right-hand side rear door. So I'll have stands left, stands right, stored horizontally. And then maybe I'll do a couple more shelves in there to take these Apple boxes and then slots for the breakdown flag. I want to get my confidence and finish quality up to the level working with wood that I can make my own kitchen cabinets. I'd like to redo a kitchen and have my own plywood cabinets in there. We redid the kitchen in our previous house in California, had custom cabinets made at a shop, and we went with a walnut veneer finish. They're plywood cabinets, but the doors and visible components are this walnut veneer. It's also this style cabinet, I believe, is one of the easier types to make versus like a shaker. So I want to get my woodworking skills to the level where I can make some cabinets like this. I think my contractor grade table saw can do it. I just have to make a bigger woodworking table. My first few home repair remodel projects were super frustrating because I didn't have the tools or the knowledge, and it was before YouTube, so it was hard to acquire the know-how. But now I find it's so similar to media production, video production, in that you're trying to solve problems under pressure with specialty tools and equipment. And so I find it's like exercising the same side of my brain as out there running a camera trying to compose pretty shots and stitch them together to tell a story under the constraints of the client's directions and the ticking clock. Except in this case for me, the only ticking clock is the setting sun, and I've caught myself a few times where I'm rushing to beat the sun, and I need to stop at that point because that's when I'm going to end up taking a finger off with a table saw. I stuck my thumb in a power planer a couple years ago, and still have my whole thumb. It grew back, but I don't. It's like numb on the end. I don't have any sensation there. Last video of the year. This is usually, historically, I've put together a year-end review of how my year went, what equipment I purchased, and what my plans are for the following year. I haven't gathered my thoughts enough this year. I was just kind of running on autopilot, responding. I wasn't out there proactively chasing business as much as I have in years past. And same on the equipment side. I don't really have any pressing needs beyond like little grip stuff like this for next year. I know at some point I'm going to have to buy some new cameras, sell some old cameras, but I'm not feeling any pressure to do any of that right now. So yeah, maybe I'll put together a year-end review in the first couple weeks of January, but it's going to be pretty simple this year compared to the past ones. With that said, I'd like to hear your thoughts on how your year went and what your adjustments you're thinking of making for next year in business. And then also like what kind of hobbies or side projects like building nesting apple boxes are you doing? You know, things that like a hobby or other project that's helping to improve your skill set in making media. Oh man, someday I'll have my own shop. End of day 2. 1 sheet of plywood equals 1 full set of nesting apple boxes. Learned a lot on this first set. If I make a second set, do a bunch of minor improvements. I'm thinking of just going for it right now because I think a second set will get done in 1/4 of the time.